Hey folks, my name is Jen, and today we're going to talk about the books that I read in May. Disclosure, I have a bit of a headache, so this is probably going to be really low-key, but last month I read 5 books. We'll say quality-wise, I think I did pretty okay. There was kind of a variety. I have a nonfiction book, a couple of mysteries, a classic, and a literary fiction. So first up, I think we'll talk about the literary fiction. That was Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this is actually the second book in this cafe series. The first one was Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which I read last year. And these books are centering around this cafe that I'm pretty sure is in Tokyo, right? Yeah, it's in central Tokyo. It's called Funakuli Funakula. It's at basement level. There's no windows in it, so any cafe that you're probably imagining in your head that might have windows allowing sunlight to flow through inside, and cheery decor and stuff like that. No. This is something different. It's at a basement level, there's no windows. It looks like the place has been unchanged since it opened, or has pretty much been unchanged for years. I believe there's the door has engravings on it. I think there's a clock or something on the wall. It's just a simple little place. There is one table that is usually occupied by a woman in a white dress. So the urban legend goes that there is this table where this woman in a white dress always appears to be sitting. When she gets up and goes to the bathroom at some point during the day, you have no control over when she goes. She just randomly go. If you get up and go and sit down there, you will be served by one of the workers of the cafe a cup of coffee, and she will go over the rules with you, and you can travel back in time, but you can only travel back in time to a specific date that also is at the cafe. So whether you're trying to meet someone who is at the cafe, or you're trying to go back to a time when you were in the cafe, or you were in the cafe with someone else, and you have to be very specific and focus on what that time was. You can't change anything in the time. You can't do anything to change the course of time. Things are going to happen no matter what. But a lot of people tend to use it as some kind of closure for them, or maybe for the other person. And then you have to be done with everything and drink your coffee before the coffee gets cold. Because if you don't drink it by the time the coffee gets cold, you will end up like the woman who is always occupying the seat. She is basically a ghost because she didn't come back to the future. There's also a couple of occasions where you can actually travel to the future too, which is interesting. But this is basically the tales of people, whether they are regulars, people who visit the cafe, or even the cafe owners as well, the family and friends, their story involving the cafe and this particular weird time traveling thing that goes on. So this is book 2. We get more stories within here. We get story of parents, lovers, friends. We get more stories of people who are looking for closure, they know that they can't change the past, and they know that they can't do anything of that, but going back will give them hopefully some kind of closure, some kind of answer, to help them move on in their lives, or maybe to bring back a message to someone in the past to help them. And this can be very heart-wrenching. It's also heartwarming. It's one of those books that I feel like it feels like an emotional roller coaster, like you would feel if you were reading fucking Chicken Soup for the Soul or something like that, but this has so much more beauty in it, if that makes sense at all. I love the time travel aspect of it, and I've never ever heard of anything quite like this kind of concept before, of this special table in the cafe and the rules surrounding it, the coffee preparation, that it's like a whole ritual that is done. And this is set a few years after the events of the first book, Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And what I also really liked about this book is I liked getting more of these stories of like redemption and closure, but what I also really liked was getting more insight into the cafe itself, how things worked, the past of the cafe, and of the relationships, and a little more of the past of the people, the family who operates the cafe. Some of them were in the first book, so it was really good to get more. It was really good to see more of them and to get more story behind, like I said, like the cafe. This hurt. This book honestly hurt. I didn't actually, man, I cried when I read the first one. I didn't cry when I read the second one, but it was a close thing, let me tell you. If you want to feel something in a big way, I would definitely probably check out this series. I think there's like 5 or 6 books out now. I definitely plan on continuing to read more of them. I don't want to go into extreme detail about things because I don't want to give away more. I feel like this is just a series that you kind of have to experience. I don't want to give like a ton of information. I will say though, be prepared to be in your feelings after you read this book. I think my only trouble with this is that I wish that we had a little more insight into a couple of the characters. It it gives some insight, but not the point of view isn't so close to the characters really. That's my only complaint about this, I guess, is that I'd like a little bit more from them, I suppose, but I just don't think that's the way these books are written, that's fine. But yeah, I did really enjoy this, and I definitely do plan on reading the others because they're just, wow, they pack a punch. I gave this like 4 stars. Then I did a reread of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is like the 3rd time I've read this book. I forgot, I think, how good this book is because this is the movie cover. I've watched the movie more than I have read this book. This is a comfort film for me. I love the actors in it. I love the aesthetically pleasing movie, the soundtrack, the pacing. It's such a good fucking movie. But I've definitely watched it more than I have read the book, and I do really enjoy Jane Austen's writing. Persuasion and Northanger Abbey are both amazing. I did not really enjoy Sense and Sensibility that much, but that has more to do, I think, with the characters than anything else. I just didn't like them. But sometimes I forget how entertaining of an author Jane Austen is, or was, when I haven't picked up her books in a while, because when you're first sitting down to them and you're reading the first couple of pages, you're like, oh boy, because if you're not reading classics like every other day, it does feel like it takes a little bit to get your brain back into processing that language, the way of phrasing everything. you know, you have to retrain your brain to, okay, I have to really, really pay attention to everything in here, and kind of retrain your brain into uh, analyzing what's being said. But I think that I forget sometimes how absolutely entertaining and hilarious a lot of her writing is. I definitely forgot how funny this book is, or how much insight you get into the characters in this book. I think with a lot of adaptations, you tend to be spending a lot of time close to Lizzie's head, even if you're not like getting her innermost thoughts, you're spending a lot of time close with her. And maybe you're not seeing as much of Darcy, and that's included with a lot of, I think, retellings and stuff like that. We tend to get a little more insight, I think, into the whoever is playing Lizzie or Liz or whatever they've named these characters. You tend to get more, I think, from her point of view than you do of Mr. Darcy. Whereas in this, I had totally forgotten that we do get some insight into him. Like, this book does go at the inner thoughts of a lot of the characters in here. And I really loved that, because I think sometimes in adaptations you can see like maybe there's some yearning on the actor's face of Mr. Darcy, but you're not getting those inner workings. You're not getting that, yeah, he tried to play off like he wasn't interested in her, but he definitely was interested in her, and he kept finding her interesting and kept wanting to be around her, despite because he found her intriguing. He liked the way that she went above and beyond for her sister when Jane was sick at Bingley's. He enjoyed her sense of humor and her intelligence and her feistiness. He liked all of that. He thought she was pretty. You know, he found all of that really entertaining, and he's a giant fucking oaf because, of course, the first proposal that he gives is basically like, hey, I liked you despite my better judgment. The fuck, bro? That's not the words that you use. But it's still, you get those little bits and pieces of, yeah, he's a fucking idiot, but he does also really like her. So I liked getting all of that info. I liked the societal commentary, of course. I think that I hate Mr. Collins even more in the book version than in the movie version. In the movie version, he's just distasteful. Also, a moron, a self-righteous, pompous asshole. In here, he's even more distasteful. There's a letter that he writes at one point, which is just absolutely abhorrent. But yeah, overall, I loved them, all of them, most of them. I can tell you, Darcy's aunt's still the most royal bitch ever, but I enjoyed all of the characters a lot more in the book even than I do in the adaptations, which I knew I liked this book already. It's been years since I've read this, and I like I said, I watched the movie way more than I have read this book. But I think it just made me appreciate them even more reading this. And just the sense of humor in here. There's within this societal commentary, there's some observances that are made. There's some jokes that are kind of slyly given, especially a couple from Mr. Bennet, which are hilarious. And yeah, I just had a really good time reading this. Like a really good time reading this, and relearning the characters, and boy howdy, Lydia is so insufferable. So is Wickham. But yeah, I really loved giving this a reread. I think that there's a reason why this endures. And it's not just the romance aspect. It's not just the character development and the growth. I think it is the humor and the commentary and the lovely little insights that we get into these characters and the way they move through this society. And yeah, I don't know. I had a good time with that reread, and I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Two Mysteries. It's a duology. I don't see anything about a third book. I mean, way through the second book, I was like, man, I wish there was a third book. But when we get to the end of the second book, I was like, okay, I think I can accept that this is just a 2-book kind of deal. Okay, I'm fine with that. These were Bone to Pick and Skin and Bone, and these are both by T.A. Moore. So I read Bone to Pick several years ago. These 2 books are following Cloister Witt and his dog Bournville. She is a German Shepherd, and she's also, she's a canine. He's a canine officer. She is a police dog. She does like drug sniffing and search and rescue. Her big thing is locating people, whether it be I think she's technically also like a cadaver dog, but her main thing is trying to seek missing people, especially missing children. It's following him and his dog, and Cloister has not had an easy life. You get a little bit of information about that. You get a little more information in book 2. Basically, when he was a kid, his brother was abducted, and his mom basically made that clear that she kind of wished he'd been the one who had disappeared rather than his brother. And this has kind of molded Cloister in a lot of ways, including, like, it sounds like he had a kind of rough relationship with the father figures in his life too. It's just been, he has not had an easy time, but based on all of this, he did end up going into the to be a canine police officer because he's very good with dogs. Obviously, he cares a lot about trying to locate missing people, especially missing children. So that's Cloister's part in this. And then you also have Javi Merlot. And so that's Cloister. That's Javi. Javi Merlot is an FBI agent who... You get way more insight into his backstory in book 2, which I was very happy about. But basically, something happened at the old place he used to be an FBI agent at, and he has been kind of relocated to the field office out here. He and Cloister have a love-hate relationship. They have temperaments that piss each other off, but they're still hopelessly attracted to each other, and this kind of push-pull thing is kind of interesting in the background of what is going on. So in this first book, they're in San Diego. So this is in California. In this first book, there is a 10-year-old boy who has gone missing. He went into the woods and did not come back, and they find some evidence that shows that, hey, this kid just didn't run away, he's definitely been abducted, and he's probably not the first kid that's been abducted either. So, with the help of Bournville, the dog, the 2 of them are off to try to find this kid before it's too late, as well as dealing with the pretty heavy sexual tension that are existing between the 2. And then book 2, this is taking place, I can't remember how much time later. It's been several months at least, or maybe like a year or so. And following the events of book 1. And in this one, a young trans woman is in a coma. She has been viciously attacked, and they are trying to figure out what happened, and they are digging into why this was. She was a tourist. She doesn't know anyone in this area. What could have happened, and in doing so, they kind of uncover like this conspiracy that's like, I think like a decade old, and shit's crazy. And it's also talking about their complicated relationship or situationship, basically because both of them are being idiots and not really wanting to admit that they, care about each other. So again, you get a lot of kind of trying to uncover mysteries and search for abducted people, and you also have like this kind of love-hate relationship that they have going on, kind of adding some more intrigue to the story overall. And then you have Bournville, who is the best doggy in the whole world. Just good doggo. I really think my favorite aspect of these 2 books was probably everything involving like Bournville and how she does her thing, like all of her training and her personality too, hilarious. But yeah, I really liked learning more about like the training and how like canine dogs or like search and rescue dogs work and stuff like that. I really enjoyed learning more about that. And I honestly have not read that many gay romance novels, to be honest. I kind of have this group just like mystery novels because that's what these are, but they are also like a I guess I'd kind of compare them to like Nora Roberts' like thrillers and stuff like that, where there is definitely a mystery and that's like the big thing, but there's also a romance happening as well. That's kind of what I'd categorize these as too, like this kind of romantic thriller sort of thing. Although I don't think things really get romantic until like late, like stereotypical romance until later. But yeah, they're very entertaining, and I really liked the development of the relationship between Cloister and Javi. And like I said, I love Bournville. I think my one complaint about these 2 books is that I felt like things got a little bit too rushed when the big reveals happen. Like, it felt like when people are figuring things out, they're just kind of telling, they're not doing as much showing as they could be, if that makes any sense at all. I would have enjoyed maybe the big reveal or the solution really to be just a little bit more complicated or a little less rushed than they were in both of these. But I mean, they're still really entertaining, very interesting. I will say, if you are a little bit squeamish or everything, there are a couple of like nitty-gritty yucky crime details and stuff like that you may or may not be okay with. But otherwise, yeah, like I said, entertaining, spicy. Definitely, there's some spice in here, and pretty spicy. And I loved Bournville. She is easily the best character in these 2 books. I gave both of these 4 stars. And then the last book that I read in May was Back to the Future: The Ultimate Visual History, written by Michael Klostorin and Randall Atamanayak. And this is a visual history of Back to the Future. Back to the Future is my favorite movie. All three of them are my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely adore them. They are perfection as far as I'm concerned. I will hear no shit said about them whatsoever. But I really loved finally getting down and reading this book because I've had this coffee table book for a while. And a couple of months ago I was like, man, I've got like several coffee table books. I should probably actually sit down, read them. Because they're all things that are interesting to me. This was great. So it gave the history of Back to the Future, the concept, where everything came from, and this was like huge because at the time this was like a movie that wasn't based on anything. You know, it wasn't based on a book or another movie. It wasn't a reboot. It wasn't an adaptation of, like I said, like a book, another movie, a show, a comic, a video game, a nothing. It was completely original, out of nowhere, and it was based off of, if I remember correctly, it was Bob Gale went home. It was either Bob Gale or Robert Zemeckis. One of them went home and had gone through their parents' yearbooks and saw these old pictures of their father and were like, man, would I have been friends with my dad if I'd known him in high school? And this kind of sparked this idea of someone going back in time and bumping into their parents when they were teenagers. And it grew into this trilogy. And it goes through the writing, the idea process, the writing of everything, the casting, the recasting in a couple of cases, and just through the making of all three movies, the struggles and stuff, especially regarding like Michael J. Fox, because they had wanted him originally and they ended up going with another actor, because they just couldn't get him because he was the biggest like TV star at the time. He was like on Family Ties, which was a very popular show. I have not watched the entire thing, but I have seen the first couple of seasons before it was taken off the streaming platform that I was watching it on. And it is a good show. Like what I watched of it, I really enjoyed. But yeah, he was like one of the heartthrobs of the time, popular TV show, popular actor on a TV show. So they weren't able, the TV show refused to spare him, and then shit wasn't going right with the actor that they chose, and they did end up getting Michael J. Fox to do this, but he had to jump back and forth between filming the show and filming the movie, and it was just like this crazy time. And Michael J. Fox actually has a book coming out. I'm so excited. He has a book coming out that's about that time of hopping back and forth and making this while filming Family Ties at the same time. So it's like, I'm so excited to read that, because I'd like to learn more about that. But this was just so great. It was so great to learn more about the movie, to see more of the, to learn more about the actors and their experiences in here, because Michael Class Doran was like involved in the movies, and also they did like a lot of interviewing, of course, with all of the actors and the crew and everything, to get all of this information. And it's just so great. And there's even at the end, there's also a section about like the aftermath of the movie, the enduring quality of it, and then it also goes into the games and the I'll pull it up. You have the ride, which is no more, unfortunately, but I was lucky enough when I was 12 and we went to Disneyland at when we went to Disney World and Universal Studios, I was lucky enough to have gone on the ride, which was like, I had been a dream of mine to go on that ever since I first saw the commercial for Universal Studios on our VHS tape of Back to the Future 3, because at the beginning of that movie there was a whole ad for Universal Studios, which I think had recently opened at the time. So I saw that the ride existed there and I wanted to go so bad. Basically, ever since I was like 6 years old and I saw that, I'd wanted to go. So, um, that was great. Like, I know there's people who are like, oh, it's really lame. No, if you're a fan of the movies, it was really fucking great. But anyway, they also had the cartoon, which I vaguely remember watching. I figured I'd watched it because I have kicking around somewhere a couple of the toys that were at like either Burger King or McDonald's. They had like Happy Meal toys or whatever. So I figured I'd probably seen the show because the characters looked familiar. But then when I actually watched the trailer, when I actually watched the opening for it, it created like this visceral reaction in me that was like, oh hell yeah, I definitely did watch this when I was little because I remember this opening so much. Yeah, anyway, this was great. And I love this book too because it does have like these extra little things in it. Like it within here you also get little extras, like here's the receipt for the almanac from the second movie. There's a picture that you can take out of George and Lorraine. There's all these little extras that I 100% plan on decorating the library with when it's all set downstairs. Like, I have plans. Like, some of these things are going to get framed, and some of these more bulkier things, I think I'm going to create, like, a collage or some kind of shadow box thing or something, because I'm me. But, yeah, I love all this extra stuff. I love that we get to see these are some of the costume ideas that they had for Hill Valley 2015, which is funny because some of these look a little bit like, yeah, people kind of wear that stuff, and then some of this is like, no one would ever wear this. And then you have movie 3. But yeah, I really loved this, and I had such a good time reading this and looking at all the pictures and learning more about my favorite movie of all time. So yeah, I think this was probably the best thing that I read last month. This, at least, the very least, my favorite thing that I read last month. I gave this 5 stars because it was wonderful. And I think if you are a fan of Back to the Future, you will probably absolutely adore that book. Like, I loved it a lot. And it's made me want to see if there are any other books out there about it. Like I said, Michael J. Fox has one that's coming out. And I do have a copy of the novelization of the first movie. I do have that kicking around somewhere. I think it might be at my parents' house. But I think there's also a novelization of 2 and 3, which I want to track down at some point. But yeah, anyway, loved it. Loved all of the books that I read last month. I had a really good time with all of these. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about these. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know if you have any suggestions for books based off of what I talked about. I would highly recommend all of these. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for always watching. If you're new here and would like to subscribe, please indeed do so. And I will see y'all next time.